Trusted Advisor, a channel-focused podcast and video series powered by the Retail Solutions Providers Association. I'm Jim Roddy, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. This pod and video series is designed specifically for point-of-sale resellers and software developers, and our goal is to educate you on the topics of technology, leadership, management, sales, marketing, and other small business best practices. Today on the podcast, we'll be talking about what retailers and restaurants will look like after the COVID-19 crisis with two special guests. Dave Kasinetz is the Vice President of Sales at RSPA reseller member Advanced Hospitality Systems in Voorhees, New Jersey, which is just outside of Philadelphia. Dave has been a member of the AHS team for nearly 25 years. He's regarded as an expert on restaurant technologies and also an expert on the Philadelphia Eagles. Hey, Dave, great to talk with you today.
Hey, Jim. How you doing?
Wonderful. Great to have you here. And our second special guest is Vaughn Fergusson, the founder of Vend. Vend is a channel-focused developer of retail point-of-sale, inventory, customer management, and reporting software. Vaughn is a veteran of several startups, and it was 2010 when he founded, coded, and then launched Vend. He's also known for a popular TED Talk he delivered in May 2016 titled Finding Your Inner Weirdo. Hey, welcome, Vaughn. How are you?
Hey, I'm great, and hello from New Zealand.
Yes, and you're in New Zealand, where it's Thursday, and Dave is in Philadelphia, and I'm on the other side of the state in Erie, Pennsylvania, where it's Wednesday. So, Vaughn, thanks for joining us from the future. We really appreciate it.
No worries.
All right, so let's rock and roll. And before we dive into the specifics of what we think restaurants and retailers are going to look like in the new normal, let's talk about what they're going through today. And so, Dave, first, if you can share what's the business status and what's the state of mind of the merchants you've engaged with, particularly your restaurateurs? What's their state of mind?
Okay, I'm feeling pretty good. The status of the business right now is we're very busy. We were very fortunate that we already carry, hardware and software solutions that were applicable to sell to customers, during the time we're, going through, like online ordering, takeout, delivery, contactless payment solutions. Our sales team's very consultative. They all come from the hospitality industry. So we've been able to really guide our customers through, a lot of this. The state of mind of our customers is a little different. Depends on what type of restaurant we're talking about. Restaurants that say casual concept operations like sandwich shops, coffee, pizza, some taverns. They've been doing takeout for years, and it's been much easier for them with just, I don't want to say minor adjustments, but adjustments to the business that they've been able to handle. So they've been able to take the change much easier than fine dining restaurants. We have a lot of fine dining customers that use our products, and they've had a much harder time because the menus aren't really conducive to takeout. There aren't, cashier terminals to pay for orders. Online ordering's not set up. The food isn't really designed to be carried out, so it's been a little harder, especially if you're in a like Center City, Philadelphia, with a high rent and only able to do takeout. So that's been a challenge.
Got it. And so I understand those other restaurants just shift all their business or as much as they can to the takeout. What are those fine dining restaurants? What have they done? Have they given it a shot to do online ordering or curbside pickup, or do they just say, hey, we're going to wait until, the governor says we're able to open up?
Well, it's been both. We've had some that have modified their menus to, come up with creative ways to do takeout, but many realize that the small amount of takeout, like if a family's ordering takeout now, they're not typically doing high-end dining. They're calling their pizza restaurant, for takeout. So the amount of volume that they're getting versus the other, types of restaurants in the industry has been a little harder, but some have done well.
Got it. Thank you. And so, Vaughn, same question for you, but again, focusing on the retail market. What's the status of the state of mind of a lot of Vend's merchants?
Yeah, so we've got merchants from all around the globe. So we've got something like 30,000 stores using our platform. So I'm going to give you two stories because I think there's a bit of hope in here as well. I think it's fair to say it hit every retailer really hard. And very similar to, sounds like what's happened in the hospitality industry is like the retailers who adapted to new ways of engaging with their customers using online are the ones that I wouldn't say flourished, but they're the ones who are getting through this. It's not like they've flipped their business and found a whole new business model that they're going to run with. I think everybody's just in the mode of just doing whatever they can so that they can pay the bills and keep staff on and things like that. But I think it's really exciting because it's kind of forced the adoption to digital technology. So we've been a cloud platform for 10 years. So we've been selling the virtue of the cloud for a decade now. And this event has kind of forced a lot of retailers to make the move, to an online platform or a platform that connects to other online tools, because the retailers who have adapted have done curbside pickup, click and collect, but they've also engaged with their customers through digital marketing, just letting people know what's been going on. Like, are they taking orders? Are they closed? Which is really important to let their customers know what's going on. Now, I'll tell you the little bit of hope, because we've got offices all around the world, but due to the lockdown, I've been based here in New Zealand. I'm actually in Raglan, and I'm going to perpetuate all these stereotypes about New Zealand, that we all live by the beach, and I just choose to be here. But in New Zealand, we went through pretty severe lockdown, and as of, I guess, 2 weeks ago, we've come out of lockdown, and retail has kind of gone back to normal. Sure, a little bit different. Yeah, there's a few more flexiplex screens in retail stores when you go to the supermarket. But otherwise, things have gone back to normal. So that's a little bit of hope I just want to give to your listeners and your viewers, is that we're going to get through this. In some markets, it might take a little bit longer, but stuff will go back to normal.
You're saying there is another side. Who knows when that's going to be? But at some point, like you keep saying, we'll all get through this together. There is a this on the other side. Yeah,
and that's not to make light of how tough it's going to be to get through, and state by state, city by city, even it's going to be different. But if we just hold tight, we'll get through this.
Got it. Thank you for that. And so, Dave, let's look ahead. And so you and I had a conversation, I believe it was in early April, like in the midst of the pandemic. And you told me, after this, we'll be working in a different industry. So can you expand upon that? How do you see restaurants changing, both for the short term and then also for the long term?
Well, it's, what I knew in April is different than what I knew in May and now June, because this is, really, ever changing, but it is, refreshing to hear, Vaughn, to see a light at the end of the tunnel, because, on the East Coast, where I am in the middle of New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, where we were really in the epicenter of this, we're, finally, kind of getting a little back to normal. Yesterday, the governor finally lifted the stay-at-home order. So we've all been in our homes since March, so that's, that's been, difficult as well. Restaurants, starting, I think June 15th, will be allowed to do outdoor dining. So you still can't go into a restaurant. So we're still far behind parts of the country, but things are very different, and the industry is different. We're seeing big changes. Restaurants are now looking at their menus, and they're trimming down the menus, and they're only selling what's popular, what's profitable. Family style takeout meals are being offered. A popular chain restaurant near me has a family of 5 meal for $50. I mean, if I would have taken my family there, it would have been $150, to eat the same thing. So, they're getting creative. Also, customers are trying to find new revenue streams. And these are things that I think you may see as things get back to normal, like selling grocery items in the restaurant. I've got one customer sells meal prep kits with instructions how to cook it at home. Another one who's selling raw pasta and sauces, things that, they weren't doing before. And in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, it's really interesting. They just recently, a month ago, passed laws to allow the sale of alcohol for takeout. And I don't mean a 6-pack of beer. I could order a Grey Goose martini, and have it and take it home with me if I want to, or have alcohol delivered. So from a business standpoint, it's opened up online ordering opportunities, programming opportunities, ID scanning products that we carry. So we've been able to adapt to this. But I think you're going to see a lot of these creative ideas that are working today. I think they're going to keep in the business, when things return to normal, the new normal.
Got it. And do you think, so you're talking about the new revenue streams to a degree. So you think restaurants, some of them will be able to, have a grocery section that's unique to them. It's not like they're going to be selling candy bars and potato chips, if they didn't before, right? So they'll have the grocery aspect. They'll do more of the online, so they'll do it through that avenue. Do you also see like they need to do that because do you see that tables are going to be reduced, right? They're going to have the same square footage, but there's going to be more space in between. Do you think social distancing is going to become more of the norm in restaurants in North America for not just 2020, but maybe even beyond that?
Well, I think once, there's a vaccine and, things get back to normal, we'll be able to, fill a restaurant. But, restaurants that have decks, patios, parking lots, things like that, they're able to take those tables outside and still, seat people, but it's still a challenge. And, we're kind of curious how it's going to look.
Yeah, I talked to a reseller in the Midwest, and they had just allowed, the state had said you could start eating outside. And so they started putting up tents in their parking lot, right? And just expanded and pushed everybody out into there. I mean, where you and I live in Pennsylvania, that might be hard to do in January, but it seems like they're going to have to, adapt in those terms, but especially online ordering. Do you see the amount from a consumer standpoint? Do you think they'll continue to keep ordering online because now they have that new habit and they're like, hey, this isn't too bad. I can keep my sweatpants on. I don't have to actually get dressed up to go out to the restaurant and get the food that I want. Do you see that continuing through 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it was always part of our business. We've had online ordering, capability for quite a while, but it was really, the casual or quick service restaurants that did it. But I think people now think, hey, this could happen again, and I have to have the ability to allow a customer to quickly place an order and not have to wait online, or be on hold, get busy signals, someone get the order wrong, and it allows, customers to order on their own terms. So I think it'll be part of every system moving forward.
Got it. Thank you. Now, Vaughn, let's talk about the innovations that emerged in retail during the pandemic and you think will become a permanent part of retail. What are some of the innovations you saw from your merchants and also just in general from a retail space around the world?
So there's two sides to the innovations that we've seen. So there's the how to engage with your customers. And so the biggest innovation there is curbside pickup and click and collect, or whatever label you want to give it. So being able to still, so it's e-commerce, right? But e-commerce with that physical element, it's leveraging the asset that you've got, which is your store. So we've seen a lot of retailers adopt that, and they haven't overthought it. Like they're really just trying to solve problems. Like, how am I going to keep selling to my customers? How would I allow them to safely get products? And so it's kind of like retailers are naturally entrepreneurs, and so this is a time where they flourish because they're having to they're trying to solve problems. How can they seat customers in a restaurant? Let's take over the car park. And so it's actually it's a little bit fun and interesting as well, because like they're coming up with innovative solutions, and a lot of these things don't actually require technology. It's just a little bit of nous and some people power, some people glue, just kind of making it all work. And we're all in this thing together. So their customers are kind of enjoying it as well, because they appreciate the effort that's being made, and they also want to support their local retailers any way they can. But in the digital space, click and collect is obviously a big one. The customer engagement side of things, just talking with customers. But I think the most impactful thing is really retailers of all sizes are needing to go through a cost rationalization exercise, and they're looking at the tools that they're using and how much they're spending on infrastructure. And a lot of it's just been sitting in stores doing nothing for for months now, and they don't have access to their business information because they're not on the cloud. And some bigger retailers might be downsizing, so then unfortunately they might need to be shutting down some stores. And so this is forcing this big rationalization. And I think it probably explains almost the irrational behavior that you're seeing on the stock market, right? It's like the stock market's going up, whereas everybody's really feeling it. And the way I explain that is like every business is now forced to look at their operational costs and trying to remove all of the unnecessary costs in their business. And they're actually finding that they're actually, in their core, they've got a really highly profitable business. And they've just been forced out of necessity to have to get really smart, replace all the the dumb processes in their business, get rid of the tools that aren't working for them, reduce the spend. And what they're trying to optimize for is to keep the people, because the people are the key part of their business. Like, it doesn't matter any scale you are at, it's your people that really make your business something special. And so, yeah, even though I'm a technologist, I've been in the technology industry for like 3 decades now. I'm more excited about the human endeavor of how people are getting through this. It's just like sitting down, thinking about the problems, and then coming up with really creative solutions.
Got it. And so some of the solutions that I've heard of are like FaceTime shopping, right? Where if somebody can't go in the store, they walk around, or zooming around town. Do you see those as being things that can now augment going forward, or is that purely something in the pandemic, or could it lead to something, a kind of a spin on that? That's, again, that forced creativity that you've alluded to a couple times.
I think a lot of it's going to stick, because retailers have found these new experiences that they can give to their customers, because not every customer shops the same. So this is the thing about we've been talking about for a long time in digital retail and e-commerce, and it's like e-commerce is eating retail, and it's like no, like retail is changing, and the way consumers shop is changing. We've got mobile, we've got online, we've got social media. But it's not replacing retail. It's just adding more channels for retailers to engage and sell to their customers. And actually, I've spoken to a number of really innovative retailers who have done like FaceTime shopping, or have put product teardowns on TikTok, and they've just kind of found every channel that they can find and seeing if it works. And some of them have blown up, and they've found these experiences that they wouldn't have otherwise have tried, because they were too busy with the business as usual. It's like we're all now in business as unusual, so we've got to be creative. But yeah, and then so for like some of the higher end fashion retailers, for example, they've now started to book private consults over FaceTime, where trying to augment that experience of like, the customer can't come in and poke at the products and try things on and talk to people. It's still not as rich as doing it over FaceTime, but it's better than nothing. And actually, for some customers, they actually prefer that. And if they had been offering that service from the start, those customers would have used that service. So yeah, I don't know. Part of me also kind of feels like we're all creatures of habit as well. Once this is all over, we'll all be back to our same old habits. But I'm kind of hoping we stick with some of this innovation, because it truly is really, really cool.
Got it. Very good. And it's interesting, you've both talked about how to make the experience better for the consumer. Like in the retail space, you can do that FaceTime shopping, but in Dave's space, in the restaurant space, you can't exactly do like, look at these tacos on Facebook, right? It just doesn't, it just can't
it tastes amazing. You should try this sometime.
Right, and you can't smell it or anything like that. So, got it. Well, let's take a quick break right now and pause a moment to let our listeners and viewers know that an RSPA membership has never been more valuable or affordable. The RSPA has expanded its VAR and ISV member benefits to include discounts on health insurance, HR services, office supplies, and shipping. Also, RSPA members now have access to a legal advisor, security advisor, and a VAR and ISV business advisor. That's all included in your annual RSPA membership, which for resellers starts at just $250 a year. That's U.S. money. I'm not sure what that translates into where you are, Vaughn. So that's 68 cents a day for these high-value services. Accelerate your success by joining the RSPA today. Also, thank you to our sponsors who support the RSPA community and make this podcast and video series possible. Our platinum sponsors are Blue Star, Heartland, ScanSource, and Shift4 Payments. And to receive the benefits of an RSPA membership or RSPA sponsorship, email membership@gorspa.org. And finally, in response to the COVID-19 crisis, the RSPA has launched the RSPA Solutions Center, a new online platform designed to introduce VARs and ISVs to innovative solutions and connect them with the providers of these solutions. You'll find product details, videos, white papers, case studies, channel executive contact information, and more. To grow your channel business, Google RSPA Solutions Center today. And just like you were both alluding to, there's so many things that are going to be online. I was talking with a reseller earlier today, and they said, I don't know if people want to engage as much on their phone or through their screen. And I'm like, they don't have any choice right now, right? Like, in order to survive, like, that's really where you have to start pushing customers. And Dave, let's go back to you. And I'm curious what you see coming out of this and how quickly you expect the recovery to be. And so, I've had some folks talk about a retail or a restaurant spring, right? It'll slowly, it got dark, but then things are going to, bloom and start to really come back. But that's over a period of time. Or some people have talked about a rebound where it bounces back pretty quickly. Any thoughts on how quickly you expect restaurateurs to recover? And then I'll ask the same question of Vaughn.
I see it recovering now. I mean, if you look across the country where restaurants have reopened, even with limited capacity, I mean, they're pretty packed, they're pretty busy. You see lines getting in. I still think, on the other hand, you do have, more cautious people that want to wait until there's a vaccine before they're, sitting in a restaurant. But I think a lot of people are out and are just itching to get out and, be in a restaurant and go out to eat and kind of, get back to normal. It's different. I mean, these restaurants have to figure out, how to properly, space the tables, be safe. Are they going to put plexiglass, between the tables? Both my boys work at a restaurant, a national chain, and they were told when they come back, their servers, they're going to have to change their gloves between every single table, wear their mask, for 12 hours, have their temperature taken. In the restaurant, and I come from the restaurant industry, there is a saying in the restaurant industry that you can't ever be sick. You always have to go to work. Not the case anymore. I mean, you're sick, you're not going to be allowed in. And restaurants are going to have to be able to do more with less people. And I think that's where a lot of the, newer technologies that we're selling allows that.
Yeah, I had a teacher in high school who used to say, don't call in sick, crawl in sick. And during this crisis, I'm like, that is the opposite of what you want to do. Dave, let me ask you this and put it this way. So the restaurant industry was at a standstill. Do you see it right now at a crawl, walk, jog, run, or sprint? Like, where do you think it is right now? How do you see it coming back?
Well, I think it depends where you're located, what part of the country. And I think I think I'm more in the middle. It's not a crawl, but it's not a sprint. I think it's more of like a quick walk.
Okay.
I mean, we look at our own sales and, we've been busier. So if we're busier and it's improving each month, since it started, that means our customers are busier. We're taking more phone calls to our help desk. So that means more restaurants, are open, and need support. So we're seeing good signs.
Got it. Great. Okay, Vaughn, on the retail side. So I guess I don't have enough fingers to count on this for those who are watching on video. So there's standstill, crawl, walk, brisk walk, jog, run, sprint. So where would you see retail? And again, I'm sure it's across different sectors. What's your take?
It's all of the above. And so, maybe I'll share a bit of data because we're very privileged to have retailers all over the world, so we can see different markets as they go into lockdown and come out of lockdown, and kind of what happens. Now, this is not, the caveat is this may not hold true for every market, but we've seen markets that have gotten through the crisis and started to reopen the stores. There's almost like this pent up demand. We see a spike because, like, people have been stuck at home. Like they just want to go out and live a life. And so we in every market we've seen this little spike of higher than usual, like higher than pre-COVID, and then it sort of normalizes. It normalizes pretty close to where things were. And so that makes me feel very, very, very optimistic. Now, the big caveat is it also depends on how long we're in lockdown, right? Because in some markets where they've, essentially commerce has been halted for 2 months, 3 months, a lot of small businesses can ride that through. But the longer it goes, it just gets tougher and tougher, especially with businesses who are cash flow businesses. It starts creating some real problems. But from a customer point of view, the customers are there waiting. They're just like, they're sitting at home in the sweatpants. They're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go out. I want to go see a movie. I want to go get a meal. I want to go buy some stuff. And so they're going to come back. They're going to come back. And if there's the third caveat is, it also depends on your business. Like some parts of retail will struggle. If it's a high touch environment, things might take a little bit longer. But yeah, I think we should all feel very hopeful that a resemblance of normality will be back with us soon.
Got it. And let's stick with you, Vaughn, because technology is going to play a key role in the comeback. And so I'm hearing specific technologies that are really helping, that are more popular. So we've talked about some of them already. Online ordering, e-commerce, email receipts, contactless payments is another one. That's what I'm hearing most frequently. Are you hearing the same thing? What else would you add to that list that you think our listeners and viewers should pay attention to?
Yeah, some of it's like the small detail, like contactless. Like it makes a huge difference and accelerates your ability to reopen your store. The more touch points, the physical touch points that you remove, the faster it is that you'll be able to return back to normal. Because customers there's a lot of anxiety. Like there's almost this new rule book, social rule book of like how you interact with others, and everybody's like still not really sure. It's like, can I go into a store? Can I pick up things? Can I touch things? How do I deal with the payments? Do you accept cash? So there's like this new social contract that needs to be written, and so everybody's just still trying to figure it out. So the more you can simplify that by offering contactless payments is one. Another one that I think a lot of people probably didn't see or pick is the need for contact tracing. So as some markets have opened, it's like you can let customers come into your restaurant or your store, but you need to keep tabs of who's coming in, because if there is an outbreak, we need to be able to let these folk know that perhaps they were in contact. But retailers can leverage that, because this is actually a best practice for retailers to know who their customers are. It's like, and now they've got a great excuse, as long as they don't, abuse it, like asking for customer contact details so that they can spam them. But it also says that they care about their customers. It's like, hey, we just want to get your details. Not saying that anything's, but just in case there's anything we need to let you know, it's for your safety, so we can keep in touch and just let you know. So stuff like that, customer-facing displays, so that for information. So just trying to remove all those touch points between the store members, the staff, and the customers. And they may not sound, they're not earth-shattering technology advances. Like, we're not talking about having augmented reality experiences in the stores and things like that. It's just the stuff that they're doing now, but just doing it a little bit smarter. And they'll also find that these things streamline their businesses. Contactless makes paying faster. And so ultimately it's a better experience for their customers. So so retail will look slightly different. Like, there'll be a few more plexiglass screens around the place for a little bit, but otherwise, I think we're going to go back to what I call like the golden age of retail. Like, it's kind of like a reboot. Retailers are having to rethink how they're engaging with their customers. And the secret to success in retail is the customer experience. Like, if you're a commodity seller, like if you're just selling convenient stuff, then sure, Amazon and others are disrupting that part of retail. But the retailers who thrive are the ones who focus on doing something different and unique and focusing on that customer experience. And that's what this is all about. These crises make it all about the customer. So we just need to be, absolutely 150% customer focused.
And just if I can just share a quick story, you mentioned anxiety. So the most that we could do, I'm married, I have a daughter who is 14, and so we'd like hop in my truck and drive around. We decided to go in a convenience store and get some chips and drinks, and of course we were wiping them down. Well, as I was giving cash and getting the change back, the cashier touched my hand. I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, he touched my hand, like did I clean it enough? Like I'm thinking I was so totally overreacting, but I got to be honest with you, I thought about it for days afterwards because I was thinking, man, that guy's a stranger. He's talking with a lot of people, so huge anxiety there. But can I ask you specifically from a technology standpoint, how will they do the contact tracing? Like, is that just from a loyalty standpoint? Is it just give me the data as you check out, or is it higher tech than that? How should we picture that contact tracing will happen?
Yeah, we've seen a flurry of contact tracing apps that have popped up where retailers can like print a QR code and stick it in the store, and so the customer can either through the web browser on their phone, they just scan the QR code and put their name in, and so they're self-checking in. Those are the safest ones because the customer's not having to touch anything or write anything on a piece of paper. Any contact is bad.
Got it.
But retailers will also have a loyalty program, so they don't even if they don't want to have to do an app or anything like that or introduce something new, their loyalty program will do it effectively as well. They just need to ask for customer details. Just need to explain why they're asking for the details. But so yeah, again, technology can provide a great solution, but there's always a fallback, which is like the human glue of like how you would solve these problems. But yeah, on the contact tracing app side of things, you could fire up a little website. It's a great touch point. It's a great touch point to get customers engaged with your brand. So you could build like a little microsite, a little website. You've probably through this had to stand up a e-commerce presence so you can sell online. That's a great it's a great platform for you to direct your customers to do the self-check-in style contact tracing as well.
Got it. Thank you for those details. Dave, technologies in the restaurant space. What do you see emerging? What should resellers, what should everybody in the industry pay attention to? What's going to be implemented more?
Well, the conversation or dialogue has changed a little bit from March to April to May to June. It started in March, the end of March when we went into lockdown, that every customer we have had to have online ordering, and we scrambled major changes to our business to implement something like that because it's not easy. It's a lot of work to get a restaurant's menu online with all of the modifiers and so forth. But the alternative methods of ordering to traditional do increase check average, reduce labor, improve efficiency. So all we talked about was online ordering. From there, it went to contactless payments, which is big. People want to pay in a safe way, and luckily, our vendors had options for that. We brought in some third parties as well. And I'm maybe like you with the convenience store. I'm eating out maybe once a week, and I'm really conscious of how I'm paying, or I should say how they're accepting my payment. I haven't really paid with cash. I've been using credit cards or debit cards mostly everywhere, but there's some restaurants where they brought an EMV reader to me. I inserted the card or I swiped, and then there's places I went to where they take my credit card and they're touching everything and they're swiping it and handing it back to me. And I just didn't feel good about going back to those places. I have a customer in Center City, Philadelphia that told me she has to have contactless payments because she feels she has an advantage over other competitors that do not offer it because people want to feel safe. From there, the conversation moved to contactless ordering. And that really got interesting because, we could do contactless ordering from online, but we never really thought about doing it from inside the restaurant. So now our vendors have come through with products and third parties that allow you to take your smartphone, scan a QR code on a table that brings up the table number, and the menu comes up. You order on your phone. It prints in the kitchen or displays on a kitchen video system. A runner brings out the food. There's minimal contact, and I pay my check on the phone. So we've sold a lot of products for contactless payment. It's been very, very popular. And now, as Pennsylvania and New Jersey are moving towards outdoor dining, the two main talking points are table management and tableside ordering. So we've got a lot of requests for tablets, so I can walk right up to a table and take an order. Because if I'm in a parking lot taking an order, and also we've been doing a lot of Wi-Fi installations, so customers now can extend their Wi-Fi to areas where they never thought they would, need Wi-Fi. So we're taking orders, or we will be in a week taking orders on decks, on patios, table side. But the table management thing was really interesting, because we kind of got out of that maybe a year or two ago, because it was really hard to compete with the open tables and those type of products for a one-off restaurant. And now some states have required that you have to have a reservations package when you reopen. So think about it now. That dinner out on a date or with your wife, and you're going to have appetizers and a nice bottle of wine and entrees and desserts and take your time. I think those days are gone for a while. You're booking a table through your table management reservation software. It's from 8:30 to 9:45, and the next table is going to come in. That table that you normally don't sell, that on Monday afternoon from 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, that's going to be a high commodity now to sell those tables. Because if you're only seating at 50% capacity or less, or if you don't have a deck or a parking lot, it's what are you going to do? You got to sell those tables. I'll tell you about two interesting calls I received this week. So one was from a customer that wants to do, this was actually today, outdoor dining in a parking lot. They're not able to do tents. They're just able to do like picnic tables with umbrellas. And it says, what if they're eating, they're spending a lot of money, and it starts to rain? Are they going to request refunds? So the restaurants are trying to figure.
They're a baseball team now. They have to have a rainout policy, right, at your restaurant.
Right. I mean, think about that. You finally are able to go out to eat, and you're paying a lot of money and you've got this premium table, and now it starts to rain. So, those are concerns. We had another site. This is one that it was a deal I was in for a new restaurant, but when he had heard that he could only do takeout initially, and he's down at the Jersey Shore, a very busy area, there's no parking. So how can you even offer takeout if you don't have anywhere for customers to park? So there's a lot of, concerns, but I think we have a product line now. I mean, we really adjusted, being able to offer online ordering, contactless payments, tableside. Our business has really shifted, where we had a good mix of new restaurants and add-ons and upgrades as our, typical month. It's completely changed now to these products. And I'm glad we're able to pick them up and had some as well.
And I can say this is what we've seen anecdotally talking with RSPA reseller members, that they didn't sit still during the pandemic or just curl up into a ball and see how they could survive through it. We even did a study to get new 2020 projections for our point of sale channel KPI study, and more than 50% added on at least one new product or one new vendor, kind of like you were talking about. And then 40% of them actually created a new product on their own, bundling it together. It might have been more of the ISV set like you, Vaughn, but we saw a lot of innovation going on during this in a short period of time. So I only have a couple questions left. I know we're running short on time. Let me do like a lightning round if you can almost answer in bullets with this. So, we've talked about kind of the whole landscape. What should, Vaughn, we'll start with you first. What should retail VARs do? Like, what action should they take now to position their business appropriately and take care of their merchants in the new normal? Like, sit still is not the option. What are 1, 2, 3 things you think they should do? What actions should they take?
Yeah, you touched on it, which is bundling, coming up with new innovative products that have always been there, but now have become more important than ever for your customers. So this is a great opportunity to rationalize what they're doing around payments. With the contactless makes sense for them. Whether they have an e-commerce channels, like how they're selling through digital means, and then the third part is how are they engaging with their customers, because like this is a dip. We're all going to follow the same pattern. And so while you're in the dip, the important thing is to continue to trade, keep selling to your customers as quick as much as you can. But then when you're coming out of the dip, then it becomes really important to re-engage with customers and let them know that you're open for business and that they can come back into your store and what that new social contract is for you. So yeah, there's 3 things: payments, e-commerce, and then customer loyalty engagement.
Got it. Thank you. Dave, what's your answer? What should restaurant VARs do? What are you doing? You're a restaurant VAR yourself.
Well, our strategy since this started has been to, be there for our customers, talk to them every day, help them get through it, let them know that we're at full strength, from a support standpoint. We can support them, open to close and make, technology, recommendations to them, which are, specific, to that business. We've updated all of our needs assessment forms. When we used to talk to a customer, it would be, how many math mistakes per day, how many, handwriting mistakes, things like that. Now it's questions: are you set up to handle takeout and delivery orders? Can you maintain your customer history? Are you linked to caller ID to shorten the amount of time that call? Can you securely store, a credit card, on file rather than have to, verbally, take that credit card data every time someone calls? Would implementing online ordering, help? And we've had customers that have seen a 20% increase with online ordering. Do they have a good or a great social media presence? Man, a lot of times people think when you're ordering remotely, they're going to the customer's website and ordering, but customers are putting their online ordering links on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and they're getting more orders, from there. And then the final one with the contactless ordering and payment is, the complaint from a lot of restaurateurs is that their staff, many are not coming back because they're making more money on unemployment. We think that'll end soon with that extra, $600 that everyone's getting. But, some of them have health concerns and they're not ready to come back. So can you put in a tablet on a table, do contactless, scan that QR code and order from my phone to accommodate for labor reductions? So those are the kind of things that we're talking about with customers. Who knows? The new system that we sell might be one terminal and linked to a kitchen printer and hundreds of people with smartphones in a restaurant, placing their orders. That might be kind of where things are headed. But I think it'll be a mix. Things will come back.
My last 2 questions for you are non-technical related, and so the first is for both of you. How are you guys holding up through this? It seems like you're holding up well. You both seem to be having a positive approach to this. I actually talked to a reseller today. I said, how you doing? And they actually said, crappy, with all the things that are going on, and they've been in the business for a long time. And you're both veterans of these verticals, and overnight, they went from humming to a complete standstill. So I guess, Dave, how are you holding up? And then Vaughn.
I'm pretty good. It's been a challenge because, your business kind of turns upside down, and you don't know what to expect, but we adapted pretty quickly. We're really busy, which is good. I'm so proud of our team because we just threw a lot at them quickly, and they really did a great job talking to customers and helping them. I would say like probably the biggest challenge is talking to customers that I've known, that I've had, places that I've written 20 years ago that are struggling to stay open. I hear customers go out of business, and that's been the most difficult part for me. But overall, I'm pretty good.
Yeah. And Vaughn, how are you holding up?
Yeah, I think it's been tough. Like honestly, and frankly, these things are tough for everyone. And as an entrepreneur, we had to very quickly. We've got a few hundred staff and offices all around the world. We had to mobilize everybody so that they were working from home. But as a digital first company, I wouldn't call it trivial, but it definitely changed things. Like it changed the personal dynamic that we have with our team. In some ways, good. Like we're no strangers to doing video meetings these days. I probably do 6 or 7 or 8 a day. And that's kind of fun because like you can kind of beam in. Like I'm literally here in Raglan in New Zealand, beaming into this catch up with you folk. But on a personal level, for a start, this is not my first rodeo. The GFC. It's always a cycle. These things always happen, and you always get through them. So even though it's hard times, the other thing that kind of is, I guess, a little bit exciting about these things is that how everybody rallies together. Like there's this energy. Everybody's kind of in the boat together. We're all going to solve this problem together. But what I have noticed, and this is a little bit of a caution, is that at some point the adrenaline runs off, and then things just feel a lot harder. You get through that initial burst of like, yeah, we're just going to do whatever we can, long days. I can't remember how many 18-20 hour days I was doing, but it's non-sustainable. So you just got to look after yourself. And I guess I'm very fortunate because my choice of location for lockdown is somewhere like here in New Zealand, and been surrounded by good people, and stepping aside from work for a second, it's like I've found that it's the personal reconnections, like because we're craving that human connection again. Like I've found friends that I haven't spoken to for years reach out, and it's kind of neat to reconnect with people. But yeah, it's tough. I think the other thing we've all got to be careful of is like, I think I've probably put on quite a few pounds. I think I need to be a bit more active and burn off some of these pounds.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like the freshman 15 that they always used to call it, right? When you go to school, in college, you become, more sedentary. There's kind of the quarantine, quarter pounder that too many people ate too many of those, and they're finding themselves in that spot. So, well, gentlemen, thank you for answering. My last question for you, and we love to ask our guests this. You've given a lot of good advice so far. Can you recommend for our audience like a book to read, an online resource to follow, or a podcast to listen to that'll help them improve their organization? Now, I do have to tell both of you, Vaughn, you cannot say you need to watch Finding Your Inner Weirdo, right? Your TED Talk, okay? And Dave, you cannot say Invincible, the story of legendary Philadelphia Eagle Vince Papale, even though it's a great movie. You and I both got to meet Vince in person, have our picture taken with him. So, Vaughn, let's start with you first. What resource would you recommend to the VARs and ISVs listening to this that would help them improve them as a leader and improve their organization?
Yeah. So something that I've rediscovered going with this new lockdown life is podcasts. And so every day I try and go out for, a 30-minute to an hour walk or run. And so I've been constantly looking for new podcasts. And so my go-to one that I wouldn't have picked is Finding Mastery, and it's Dr. Michael Gervais. And he's I think he's originally a sports psychologist, but he brings such interesting people from all walks of life who have kind of mastered their thing. So there might be a particular sport, or it might be in business, or it might be in the arts. And he just asks really interesting questions, and it's so enlightening to see how other people have solved problems or got through gnarly situations. And I find it really, really, really inspiring. So it's on all the regular podcast channels. Finding Mastery.
Finding Mastery. All right. Thanks for the recommendation. Dave, how about for you? A book, a podcast, a website, a resource that you'd recommend to our listeners and viewers?
Jim, I went old school, and I went back to my Jeff Gitomer roots. I've been a Jeff Gitomer disciple for probably 20 years. And, I thought that, sometimes you lose yourself a little bit and you got to go back to the basics. So I went back to the little red book of sales answers. And, it's something I think I read it 20 years ago, but, the principles are still really important, goal setting, time management, prioritizing my tasks, finding a good mentor. And I think I'm probably busier now than I've been in a long time. Different type of busy, but busy. And the thing about with Gitomer was always, you got to have these basics. Surround yourself with positive people, and if sales are slow, then you just got to double the number of prospects you're calling on. I've read all his books. Highly recommend it. He also has a great podcast and is on Facebook Live and all the different social media outlets.
And he is not shy, right? His advice is not, maybe you'll want to do this. He's grabbing you by the lapels and shaking you.
And he's a Jersey guy too.
Got it. Okay. Well, perfect. Home field advantage. So, well, gentlemen, thank you very much. And to our listeners and viewers, we hope you enjoyed our discussion today. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the RSPA YouTube channel and the Trusted Advisor podcast so you never miss an episode. And we'd also appreciate if you'd rate us wherever you find your favorite podcast. My personal philosophy, the more stars, the better. And if you'd like to learn more best practices for VARs and ISVs in the point of sale channel, check out the RSPA blog. You can find it at gorspa.org and then clicking on RSPA blog. Before we go, thanks again very much to Dave and for Vaughn for sharing their wisdom with us today from opposite ends of our planet. And thanks also to RSPA Marcom Manager Chris Arnold for his production work, Joseph McDade for our music, and last but not least, thanks so much to you for listening. Our goal at the RSPA is to accelerate the success of our members in the point of sale ecosystem by providing knowledge and connections. For more information, visit our website at gorspa.org. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, everybody.